For 4 years, my wife and I couldn't get pregnant. And it was my fault. For years, the secret was killing me, man. So I'm like, what am I doing here?
The arena of stand-up comedy is no stranger to embellishments. Comedians often stretch the truth to land a laugh. It's one of those unspoken agreements the audience has with the stand-up. But when are those stretches too far? Comedians like Tim Dillon who do it routinely as part of their satire. Here we see Dillon talking about how he wishes his mom would have died of COVID during the pandemic.
And I'm not one of these people that didn't think it was real. I knew it was real. My mother was in a nursing home in New York, and we were terrified that she would not die of this disease.
Now, when we watch this, we don't really care what's true. It's not really relevant. The jokes are funny, and we assume his mom probably is in a nursing home and probably didn't get COVID.
Mom, you're in the hospital.
But would we care if the entire story was made up? I don't think so. It's the jokes that make the bit, not the experience. But what if we're talking about a comedian who's telling deeply personal experiences about racist events that occurred to them? That's not that funny, is it? Maybe they sprinkle some jokes around it so we feel empathy and we get to have a laugh. But at this point, the stories become the act, not the jokes. Today, I want to talk about Hasan Minhaj, the comedian known for his Netflix special Patriot Act and his work on The Daily Show. And up until recently, Hasan's career was really taking off. In fact, many saw him as the front runner to take over The Daily Show from Trevor Noah. He even did some guest hosting where he got all indignant and kicked in Kevin O'Leary's teeth.
Are you a great investor or are you a great spokesperson?
Now, these clips here, they got rave reviews amongst finance bros, who generally all hate Kevin. Shortly after that, everything came crashing down. A writer at The New Yorker, Claire Malone, looked into all these stories he's been telling and found out that they're generally fiction.
That a lot of his stories were personal stories about things that are very hot button and political in America.
And even worse, these stories have caused real harm to those he tells the stories about, which are somehow actual real people. He's made a national touring act out of defaming these poor individuals. And when asked by the reporter at The New Yorker why he made up these stories, he responded by saying it doesn't matter. It's his emotional truth that matters. So what exactly were these fabricated stories, and what does this mean for the future of Minhaj's career? Let's dive in. Now, I want to start off with his story about homecoming.
Bell rings, bring. I'm walking over to my locker. I hear the pitter patter of her footsteps. She's like, hey, wait up. I was like, oh, hey, what's up? She's like, listen, ever since my family moved from Nebraska, you've been my best friend. And you're really special to me. And this year wouldn't be the same without you. So I was wondering, will you go to prom with me?
This clip is from the 2017 Netflix special Homecoming King, where Hasan recounts the story of him and a friend named Bethany Reed. He paints a scene where he's all set for prom with his date, Bethany, a white girl. The night of the prom, he finds another dude, a white guy, at her doorstep.
Mrs. Reed opens the door. She has this look of concern on her face. And I look over her shoulder. I see this dude, Jeff Burke, putting a corsage on Bethany's wrist. And she's like, oh my God, honey, did Bethany not tell you? Oh, sweetie, we love you. We think you're great. And we love that you come over and study. But tonight's one of those nights where, we have a lot of family back home in Nebraska. And we're going to be taking a lot of photos tonight. So we don't think it'd be a good fit. Do you need a ride home?
But when the lady in question, Bethany, stepped into the light, she says Hasan didn't mask her identity well enough, which led to her family getting doxxed and receiving a storm of death threats from Hasan's loyal fans. That college crowd that cheers for social justice like it's a sport, the type of crowd that feeds off racist stories and cancel culture, scouring the internet like a 14-year-old boy who discovers internet porn for the first time. Turns out that Hasan was actually just in the friend zone. He even admitted it to Claire Malone from The New Yorker. He kept the emotional truth tag on it because according to him, it was all just a miscommunication, but for his audience, he added the relatable doorstep drama. Bethany, who's now an adult, said that she declined the invitation well before the dance and thought that her friendship with Hasan was cool after the rejection. But what got her blood boiling was how Hasan paraded her real photos on stage with a blur on the faces. That's right, apparently having someone tell lies about how racist your family is isn't enough. Instead, Hasan felt the need to put her fucking pictures on stage and go on tour with it. Okay, so let's move on to the next lie. In Hasan's 2022 special, The King's Jester, he tells the hardships of living as a Muslim American post 9/11. This time, it's about a sneaky undercover FBI dude, Brother Eric, who slinked his way into Hasan's family's mosque in Sacramento.
I was 16 years old. It's 2002. This super ripped white guy shows up to the mosque. He's just like, I'm Brother Eric. I'm here to convert to Islam.
According to Hasan's version, Brother Eric had a shady agenda to stir up the jihad talk amongst the men in the mosque.
Brother Eric, all my friends from the mosque, right? It's like, shh, come here, boys. Come here. Let me ask you a question. You boys ever think about jihad?
Our man Hasan, seemingly savvy to Brother Eric's scheme, tossed in a cheeky remark about aiming for a pilot's license.
Eric is a federal agent. He's spying on us, I'm sorry. Let's go fuck with Eric. I run back out. This time I pick up the 20s. I go, hey, Eric, do you know what I want to do one of these days? He's like, what's that? I go, I want to get my pilot's license.
And bam, the cop swooped in, pinning Hasan to the hood of a car.
Then I hear a police siren. Woo! I look outside. 15 police cars are in the parking lot. Imran called the cops. They grab me. They drag me outside. They slam my head against the hood of the car. Boom! Now shit is getting too real.
It doesn't end there. Hasan jazzed up this narrative with some real news footage of an FBI informant named Craig Monte.
Craig Monte is a human chameleon and a convicted con artist. He pretended to convert to Islam for the FBI in order to work the counterterrorism beat. As a personal trainer, he'd wear people down to get them to open up.
I go, well, Papa, look who it is. It's our good friend, Brother Eric.
Of course, Hasan never thought of this, but maybe a reporter might ask Monte if that's true. Sure enough, Monte did pipe up, saying he never set foot in the Sacramento area or had anything to do with Hasan's mosque. Again, Hasan spilled the beans to Claire from The New Yorker, admitting he kind of mashed up Monte's story with a personal childhood memory of a rough basketball game. It wasn't a covert FBI agent, but rather an aggressive push during a pickup game that birthed the Brother Eric story. The reason? Hasan said the punchline is worth the fictionalized premise. Okay, I got it. So it's okay to make up stories about events that shape you as a human and have the audience feel empathy towards you as long as you cap it with a funny enough joke. Okay, now let's move on to the Anthrax scare, also from The King's Jester. According to Minhaj, an envelope filled with suspicious white powder made a dramatic entrance into his life, spilling onto his young daughter. Cue the frantic rush to the hospital, right?
Yo, you got fan mail. He hands them to me. I rip it open. I flip it over. And all this white powder falls into the stroller. And it falls on my daughter's shoulder. Her neck, her cheeks. And she's staring at me. We rushed down to NYU.
It's a story that's got you on the edge of your seat, stirring up a cocktail of fear, concern, and relief as they were told by the doctors that the powder was actually not anthrax.
Finally, around midnight, nurse comes in and she's holding my daughter, but she's with an investigator. And the investigator reaches into his pocket and he pulls out a plastic baggie filled with white powder. He goes, Mr. Minhaj, you're very lucky. This isn't real anthrax.
This doesn't really feel like a comedian, does it? It kind of feels like we're watching some sort of evangelical preacher man like Joel Osteen. Now, when Claire Malone did a little digging, yet again, things got a bit, let's say, cloudy. No police reports, no hospital records, and even the folks at Hasan's residence had no recollection of such an incident. When nudged, Hasan kind of backtracked yet again. Turns out there was no anthrax scare. He did get a letter, however, with some mystery powder, but his daughter was nowhere near it, and nobody made a hospital run. He says he cracked a joke to his wife at the time, saying, "Holy shit, what if this was anthrax?" So apparently, a possibly true story of him seeing a mystery powder in an envelope, coupled with a comment to his wife, was enough truth for him to tell a dramatic story about his baby daughter being rushed to the hospital covered in anthrax. Hasan told The New Yorker he doesn't think he's manipulating the audience. To him, it's about taking folks on an emotional roller coaster ride where the twists and turns might be amped up, but the feelings are real. But still, the question lingers. When does a comedic exaggeration tiptoe into a realm of misinformation? Well, Whoopi Goldberg, who claims to be a comedian, tells us,
having to defend his comedy because a writer from the New Yorker called him out for making up stories. That's what we do. That's what we do. We tell stories and then we embellish them. And
I have to wonder if this was a white guy who was telling a story about a bout with cancer or being sexually assaulted by a female teacher as a kid, and they took the time to really pause and the time to elicit emotion, tugging at your heartstrings, and then told some jokes afterwards that were even sort of funny, but then later we found out that it was all a lie, would we be okay with it? And would we say, well, that's just what comedians do? Or would cancel culture swoop in and cancel them? See, it's not about substance or even comedy for that matter. It's about feelings. Hasan kind of reminds me of, well, Canada's Prime Minister.
I'm gonna be real with you. It's a lot of the looks. In comparison to some of these world leaders, there are some straight uncles walking around. We got some uggos. They don't carry themselves like you. A lot of them remind me of my friends' dads. So I'm gonna show you some photos. We're playing a game here.
Okay.
You have to tell me, is this a world leader or is this my friend's dad?
It's sort of like a world where appearance and image posturing is more important than truth. Anyways, I digress. It seems that Hasan justifies his lies, thinking they represent what many people of color face in America. Now look, I'm a white hetero male, so typically it's ill-advised for me to voice an opinion on matters like this. But thankfully for me, I'm enough of a nobody to really have to worry about anybody canceling me. Now, it's funny to me how liberals are quick to cancel Louis C.K. for whipping his dick out in front of women, or Aziz Ansari for asking a woman repeatedly for fellatio after he gave her what was apparently really poor cunnilingus. Yet here we are, and there's hardly even a peep about Hasan. Why is that? Is he just not that popular? Nah, I don't think that's it. It's almost like there's a crowd out there that wants these stories to be true, and they're okay with the emotional truth justification. Hasan ruined a woman's life and her family's reputation, all to get ahead. Despite being a minority, Hasan has had 2 Netflix specials, a show, movie gigs, and a shot to be the host of The Daily Show. Maybe America's not that bad, Hasan. Look, we all have bizarre encounters. That's life. People are random, and as they walk into our lives, we encounter variable experiences. Sure, there are racist people. There's also dumb people, smart people, white people, brown people, tall people, short people. You get the picture. And that's why these stories are so believable. Because people are random. Some people are filled with hate. Conversation around what drives that hate isn't a bad thing. But here's the question I'm left with. In the end, is Hasan doing more harm to racial discourse than good? So guys, we just recently launched this channel and we noticed that 99.9% of our viewers are not subscribed. So if you enjoyed this video, we need your help in growing this channel. By subscribing, that would help us keep the lights on and make sure that our crews have jobs in these uncertain times. So please hit that subscribe button, and we promise to make more quality videos that I'm sure you're going to love.